to deal with that. Article 78 seems pretty.
Yeah.
Did you send us out a calendar of the meetings for next year?
No, I did
Remember?
not, and I should have.
You asked me.
Should have been. I will get you back.
I need it.
I will
Oh,
send
yeah,
them
that
out
would be
as
good.
ones that
I'd
were-
like, yeah, to put that in my calendar. That'd be great.
I wish I had these in like glass cups.
Oh, I know.
From, I think I added a bunch of them, at least the first couple of months worth, but I need to do all of them.
We didn't have a written sheet. There was like one. We didn't.
So we will resume this meeting of the Syracuse Planning Commission following our brief recess. And picking up on our agenda where we left off, we have first our minutes from the November meeting to approve. Is there a motion on the minutes from November 19th? I believe it was?
I move approval of the minutes of the meeting of November 19th, 2018.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor of approval, please say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Our minutes are approved from the last meeting. And we move into several items of new business for this evening.
Okay, so the first new business item is notice of intent from SIDA to act as lead agency for Acropolis Center LLC project. It's interior, exterior alterations, 335 to 339 South Salina Street. SIDA has determined that the project is a type 1 action as defined under seeker, and they're seeking agreement from the Planning Commission, as well as I believe they sent a letter to the Board of Zoning Appeals to act as lead agency. So this is a mixed-use project, will be a mixed-use project with retail, commercial space, and new construction on South Salina Street, the 300 block, 335 to 339 South Salina Street. And there also will be residential units on the upper floors. And the basement of the building will house the parking. So there will also be renovations to the building's facade. So the commission might touch this in the form of perhaps a project site review. I don't, there might also be a re-subdivision, so that's why
Is
you...
that the infill two buildings or?
I believe that it's next to the corner building that's very modern. That's
The
think
old
of the
Cambridge
corner
building?
Oh.
Jefferson.
But it's this.
Jefferson.
But is it the little slip of a lot where Tommy Greenwood knocked down that building so many years ago?
No, because this
Oh,
said
no,
they're
no,
going to
no.
add two stories to it, correct?
Yep, so that, I
So it has to be an
believe
existing building.
that you're talking about Orange Street, no, maybe
No,
not Orange Street.
There's a gap on.
there's a gap on Salina.
Okay.
But I don't think that is it.
So the new construction is up above. That's why I thought it was in the lot next door. So you're saying it's not?
Right, it wouldn't be on a vacant lot, it would be addition to an existing building.
Okay, because it said new
They said
construction.
Two new stories they're adding, right?
Yes,
Did
two
you put the
stories.
address in?
Yeah, I put in 339. What the heck is this? Hang on a minute, let me go back.
Is it 335 to 339?
Yeah, let me try that.
That I couldn't do this.
Yeah, it doesn't, it still shows,
The vacant lot.
why does it show it as 358 though?
It's the wrong side of the street.
Yeah, that's bizarre. I don't know why it's doing that.
But it's the old, it used to be Kmart, remember, a million thousand years ago? Okay. So they're building up when they say new construction. They're not talking about that little slip.
That's what their material
Because there's
said.
a little slip. See it?
Yeah.
And I remember
Yeah.
they took that building down. It was such a shame.
It fell
Such
down.
a dumb lot.
It fell down.
Well,
Yeah, it was, right?
well, there was this slip and then there was the one that fell down. So now it's bigger. But remember there was that little piece that was there first?
Yes.
So I should have clarified that. Anyway, so what might we do? Maybe project site review? That's it?
Re-subdivision.
Re-subdivision, not project site review.
I don't think so because downtown there are no yard requirements.
Ah.
There are no parking requirements, so those things like density and, parking that you have the authority to waive under that, are.
Don't come into play here.
Play in this,
Hmm.
So the only thing we would comment on would be the subdivision. Okay.
If they need a re-subdivision, if they're gonna connect the buildings,
Mm-hmm.
that was the advice that the permit desk gave. Not totally sure about that yet, but, at least this would, help get the project moving.
Well, if we have such limited involvement, it doesn't seem like we need to be a lead agency, so if they wanted to. Do we have to have a motion on that?
I think they're asking for us to act, proactively indicate agreement with their intent to serve as lead agency, right, in CITA,
That we have no objection.
right? So we probably should do that on the record with a motion.
So I move to concur with CITA's request to be the lead agency for the project at 335-339 South Salina Street.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Abstentions, we concur. And then also on East Genesee Street side, I would like to do the same with a different project.
So this project is a notice of intent to act as lead agency. This involves demolition and new construction on East Genesee Street and also Ashworth
Yeah,
Place. So the
that's
1200 block odd side, 1219 through 1200 and 1300 block odd side, excuse me.
It's across the street from the new one that just went
And
up.
also the 200 block even side of Ashworth Place.
Is it the whole
It's almost the whole block, I believe.
I mean, I remember when they were building and renovating those Ashworth Place and all that stuff.
I remember that too. Mm-hmm.
Those are nice units, they're
Okay, so we have
So
had,
it's this block?
they're subsidized, a lot of them.
Oh,
That's the Roosevelt,
okay.
and that's that Rite
Where's the
Aid.
okay, up to the Rite Aid probably, right?
I think it's the whole block. It's the whole
it's-
block on Genesee?
not the whole block.
Okay.
So towards the west, I think there's 2 or 3 blocks that are
So 1323 is the
Not
furthest.
involved in the project, but
let's see.
everything to the east on that odd side of the 1200 block.
So it spans 2 blocks, actually, the 1200 block and the 1300 block.
So Gloria Google is telling me that 1323 East Genesee is the building on the corner of Pine and Genesee,
Which is to the east.
which is the east. So it goes
Yes.
all the way to the east.
Yes,
And so it's the other way, you're thinking it's not to the end.
correct. It's not to the end towards the west.
1219.
So all of the 1300 block and most, but not all of the 1200 block.
Oh, it's all except the corner building.
Right.
Wow. Holy schmoly.
I forget the name of the housing organization that did that.
Housing Visions.
Visions, do they still own them?
I don't have a clue.
There might be two buildings towards
Oh, you
the
think it's
east.
two?
Unfortunately, I'm sorry, I don't have
So
a,
these, the newer ones?
Yeah, I mean, right?
That's,
There are 11 buildings being torn down,
buildings, it's, yeah, that's amazing.
and
so, the proposal is to demolish 11 structures and construct a 350,000
350,000 square feet is a lot of space.
mixed-use building with 283 dwelling units.
How many?
283.
But that's gigunda. Wow, okay.
2,400 square feet of retail
it's a
space.
neighborhood.
Right, again, we're taking down what looks like a neighborhood to put up another big box.
Yes, yeah, wow.
And a 295 space parking garage, so that would be underneath. They have determined that it's a type 1 action under seeker and are
You think?
Thanks.
seeking agreement from City Planning Commission to act as lead agency.
Who's the developer?
I
Northside
think
Genesee
Northside
Associates.
Genesee Associates LLC.
Wherever they are.
So, it is a comprehensive project. There are 2 different zoning districts involved. There's residential C and residential B.
Is C on Genesee and B on Ashworth?
Both, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I can try to pull up the zoning map.
It's okay. I mean, knowing there's two is.
Yeah,
is-
2
okay.
different, zoning districts. So, the,
So I'm assuming we would have to do a re-subdivision.
so there would be multiple boards involved. There would be, based on what I have seen, there was a pre-development meeting. There would be,
Pardon me.
re-subdivision, waivers, through the Board of Zoning Appeals, also a project site review, and they did mention that they would like to put retail, but that wouldn't be allowed in the residential zoning district, so I'm not sure if they're going forward with that or not, but preliminarily they had suggested that. So there will be multiple, Planning Commission and BZA will be touching this project.
Well, why wouldn't we be lead agency since we'd be having so much to do?
I can address the issue of agency disputes when it comes to lead agency declarations. There have been several cases, but I found one that outlines from the town of Wappinger that outlines the criteria that the DEC, in this case, that the court looked at. This is a commissioner's determination. So the three criteria are whether the impacts of the actions being considered are primarily statewide, regional, or local significance. The second, which I think is a little bit more relevant here, is in the selection of lead agency. Another criteria is the lead agency is that which has the broadest governmental powers for investigation into the impacts of the proposed action. And the third criteria is the lead agency it should be that which, or agency that has the greatest opportunity for a thorough environmental assessment of the proposed action. So if you feel that, especially related to those last two, that describes this board, you can make the request to be lead agency.
Well, it just seems like Cited is doing
Financing, probably.
financing, and yet we will have to look at physical impacts. Well, they would have to look at physical impacts if they're the lead agency, but the physical impacts directly relate to what our responsibilities are as the planning commission. Just seems more natural that in this case, we would be the lead agency. if it's a re-subdivision, if there's 2 zoning districts, and oh my God, that's gonna be a mess. And yeah, would someone, by the way, suggest it all be 1 zoning classification?
I am currently researching that.
I mean, I know we're rezone is supposed to happen at some point, and that area, obviously, like every area of the city, would be impacted, but let's just say that didn't happen for an academic discussion. Somebody would attempt to resolve the zoning, wouldn't we?
My understanding is that at present, the custom has been to have the more strict standards between the 2 zoning in a split zone area govern. I'm researching that to confirm whether that is the way we should be going,
Okay.
but that is my understanding of what the custom has been.
Okay, but the idea would be it wouldn't still be 2, it would be 1 classification somehow.
It would be treated for the purposes of a board's determination as 1 in the sense that the stricter rules would provide. So even if the map isn't changed effectively for your decision making, it would be the more strict standard.
But going back to something we did a few years ago, would there be an attempt to clean up the map after the fact, so to speak?
I'll let Heather take that because I don't know what.
We did that over on Park Street, I think, at one point, where one of the automobile places had encroached from West Genesee Street, and what we did was we cleaned up the zoning because there was multiple classifications, or I don't remember. I just remember talking about cleaning up the zoning map in light of what was really happening on the ground. So again, it's more of an academic discussion, but just listening to what you said this project is, it just seems like there's so many more things that we would need to be concerned about, that we would be a more logical lead agency. Not that I want to really grapple with this, but based on when I used to do seeker all the time. I am stating in the affirmative that I believe that we should be the lead agency, but I mean, some things come to mind. So if SIDA is in charge of the environmental assessment, and let's say, I gotta think of an example off the top of my head. Let's say, how many millions of parking spaces are there? There's parking, right?
300 spaces.
So let's say that from an environmental perspective, the parking was seen to have an impact on the neighborhood. And in doing the environmental assessment, the lead agency decides that's not it's identified as an adverse impact, but they say that it specifically doesn't need to be mitigated. So then it comes to us and we're starting to grapple with parking. Our hands are tied. We have to do what the lead agency basically said. There's nothing we can do. So as I'm thinking, like working on the fly here, that increases, now I'm concerned that if we wouldn't be the lead agency, it just seems like we would have to grapple with those things. And if they don't, then what happens when we have a public hearing and they come to us? We basically have to say yes to everything that was approved in the seeker, which makes everything we do sort of not nearly effective or important. I don't know. I think we should be lead agency. And I don't think this is going to be easy to deal with, so I'm not saying it like I think it's going to be fun. But
sounds like a humongous project.
yeah. But I will defer to my colleagues if they don't care.
And who sorts it out when 2 or more agencies express an interest in serving as lead agency? What's the process?
I am not very familiar with that, but from the case law I'm looking at, it looks like that is something that the DEC itself would have to.
Oh.
I think, as I recall, it's been a long time since I've had to deal with this. Usually the 2 agencies then get their heads together and they say, you know, can we not resolve this? And then if you can't, I believe you basically go to the state agency responsible for the legislation, which is DEC, and then they walk you through the stuff that Catherine's looking at. So
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at, it says, this decision is a commissioner's determination of lead agency under Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law, so essentially what you just said.
Yeah.
Do we know why they want to?
Yeah, that's, I was gonna go there next.
Let me see if it's in their letter.
Or is it just routine that they want to?
They may want everything that they're putting their money into to be.
Could be. Nope, doesn't say.
It outlines the project in a broad sense, but doesn't give the why.
Oh, hang on a minute. No, Chris, that's not what you wanna do. Okay.
No, not that I.
Since I'm the least experienced with this, I will ask the question, can we invite them to come talk to us and explain their position? If we held the matter open and said we'd like a representative of CIDA come talk to the commission?
I
Hold it open and just tell them,
Staff
to provide more information as to why. I don't think that there would be a problem with that.
I just don't know about the 30-day time frame. If that expires, if I have to talk to my lawyer.
but if we're being asked to consent because we're an involved agency, and and we question that within the 30 days, as I recall the process, we don't get clocked out.
Okay.
So if our official response is, we're not prepared to agree, we believe we should be a lead agency, I think that would be enough within the time frame to show that we've responded, and then the next step in the process would take place.
Right.
And I would
Talk
rec-
to staff, I'm
Right.
just saying, however they do it.
I would recommend a motion to that effect. Is it?
But they could, if it comes down to 30 days, does not stop ticking, and it goes to a no.
I'll talk to the executive director of CIDA tomorrow morning.
You wanna,
First thing.
So,
do you wanna add your suggestion?
do we need to do anything tonight because of the 30-day?
Yeah, when do we meet again next? Is it's,
January
January
7th, they
7th.
acted on November 20th, so
Oof.
30 days will have gone by.
yes, I see.
So we should either say yes, we should say no, or we're thinking about it, come talk to us, right?
Or we
Yeah.
could say, I would advocate, we're prepared to say no officially if we have to, but if we can say no conversationally and they would withdraw their request, that might also serve the 30-day issue.
I would make a motion to that effect then. If, so you have essentially two possible outcomes to your motion, I suppose.
Right. So if they would just agree to it, then it's over and done with, and if they don't agree to it, then we kick into the next process.
Yeah.
If you all feel so inclined, well, then I make that motion.
Or discussion.
The only question is, do you all have any sense how fast this is moving? Like when we would, never mind when CIDA would approve something, when BZA or CPC would see something?
Well, they have submitted a re-subdivision application.
Oh.
To combine all of the properties. Catherine and I actually sat down and went through the scenario of procedure and what would take place when, and because there's multiple, I say multiple, there's two boards, because the BZA and the Planning Commission are involved, and because of the different zoning districts, and because of the complexity of those rules within the zoning districts, and that this one, if the commission did decide to combine everything, what would come next? So the relief would come next with the Board of Zoning Appeals, and then depending on the research that Catherine does, for example, residential C and residential B makes up this larger piece of land. In residential C, you need a special permit for an apartment house. In residential B, it's allowed by right. But the densities and the yard requirements are different. And so that's what she was talking about earlier when she said she was looking at what is the more restrictive. So I guess the answer to the question is,
We might see something soon, which would be the re-subdivision.
yes, because I do have a re-subdivision application, but because seeker is still going on, I mean, we could add it to the authorization list, but I think,
We think we gotta resolve seeker first.
for segmentation.
But before we call the question here on the table, so if the re-subdivision comes to us, and you know I love the re-subdivision rules, I just love them, I would feel compelled to deny this, because they're creating effectively a downtown-sized parcel in a residential neighborhood, and there's nothing consistent with it. Even the project across the street that was approved, whenever we approved it last year or what have you, that's not even as large as this parcel. So procedurally, I would think that that's also a bit of a problem for them. I mean, I complain about when the land bank comes and we get 125-foot frontage, and it drives me crazy. So this is like an old urban renewal parcel. This is a big deal.
It's destroying a small
350,000
neighborhood.
square feet.
Yeah.
That's a lot of space.
That's a lot of space.
so Catherine can do some more research. I will talk with SIDA's executive director about the seeker portion of it, and then we can circle back.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're
As far
ready
as the
to
re-subdivision.
vote on the motion. All in favor, please say
Aye.
aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? So
So
we,
just to be clear, I do have, the re-subdivision application has been submitted to our office, so, we were gonna give some advice on that.
I just think absent the project as a companion piece, again, if this was the land bank coming in and saying in this neighborhood, we're gonna demolish 11 houses and 3 businesses, and we're gonna have this big parcel, I would be saying to them, like, wow, that's different than everything else that's around you. So in their case, whenever the land bank has something something different than what's the typical lot size in a neighborhood, we've asked them to justify it, and they'll say, well, it's a new side yard, or it's this or that, or it's not buildable. And it gives us a little bit of wiggle room inside those archaic re-subdivision regs to approve something that's not consistent with what's there. What would be the argument here? We're gonna do this gigantic project, but we don't have anything on the record that shows us this gigantic project. It just seems like, I don't know, y'all gotta think about that procedurally. Just seems like we should have something else on the record at the same time we're looking at the re-subdivision. And none of that's to say that in the end, whatever this project is doesn't get approved. So I think it's just trying to keep it neat. So. So if you
okay, we still have authorizations. So we've got 5 carryover from tonight on Holly Ave. You think the Amos project will be back in time for the next meeting, or?
I think so, I would anticipate that, yeah.
Okay. So is there a motion for authorization for January the 7th for the 5 cases listed, our carryover, and
I have
are
7.
you,
I have se-
Preliminary agenda. The more recent one posted Friday as
how
whoops.
many are on
What
there?
else am I missing? Oh, 7. Oh, okay, just for the authorizations.
So you'd have 9 total.
Okay.
Way better
One
than
with the
tonight.
holdover, actually 2, the Amos and then that re-subdivision on Holly.
So the 2 extra that I'm missing are, one would include Amos?
I don't know what Jeff.
well, one's a should be on, Dropbox. The agenda that's on Dropbox, we have the 7.
Right, we have 7 on what I printed out.
So there'll be 9.
And sure enough, there are. East Genesee, indoor recycling, was that that was the one by, Nottingham.
Oh, again?
They went away.
The other day, I went, I'm glad we didn't approve
That
that.
has moved to the, next to the dollar store inside the plaza. So it's not fronting on East Jenny.
Okay, because we were concerned about.
Pedestrian conflicts. Mhm.
Okay, so, these 7, I need to keep checking. Updated agenda, plus our carryover from tonight. So is there a motion for those case authorizations?
So moved.
Second?
Discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Abstentions? Other new business
No,
or other old business?
no,
So we're at a point where we can adjourn?
yes.
Last meeting of the year. Is there a
Yay.
motion? So moved. Second?
Second.
Second. Discussion, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Abstentions, we are adjourned until the new year.
And you're gonna zip us a copy of the
Yes, ma'am.